Welcome everyone to Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me as always, my wearing a Ricky Squid vibe. Squid, how are we keeping?
We're doing okay, Mike. Doing okay. Still golfing and but getting up pretty early every morning. So
Well, I see you played a little
I
bit with a
guess
couple of ex-teammates yesterday, a couple Leafs.
I, I did over at Cedar Brae, Dan Dahoo's course. Played with Danny and Tom Fergus, Mike Pellick. We had a good day. It was a lot of fun, and Steven Stamkos was playing. There was a whole bunch of guys, about 16 guys playing in the group, and it was fun. It was good.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of which, the talk arousing around Leafland this past week concerns the wrist surgery of Austin Matthews underwent. The immediate question fans and media alike are asking, why'd they wait so long? This kid's had a nagging injury most of the season. It's not that it's cut and dried, though, is it? It's more to it than that, I would believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first and foremost, most teams they want to try and do some kind of rehab that's going to make it better, and instead of going in and having any kind of surgery. I mean, that's the first thing that they're going to try and do, and then obviously, as he ramped up his training, it started hurting a little bit more again, and then they, probably explored it a little bit more and decided we need to fix this. And so, I mean, it's not a cut and dry decision, really. I mean,
Yep.
personally, I think at the end of the year, you do an MRI, you find out what the problem is, and if it's something that needs to be fixed with surgery, well, then you get it done right away. But if it can be rehabbed and perhaps come out good on the other side, I think that's what you try to do first.
Well, I mean, seem obvious. I mean, he's young and a quick healer, or should be a quick healer. And maybe regarding both remedies work, whether you want to give it rest and treatment or you go for the operation. But you know as well as I do, anytime there's a surgical procedure as a means, there's no guarantee. Now on the other side, it's only 6 weeks at the least, probably amount, probably a few weeks longer. But isn't it better to have him completely pain free when it counts and when the season really gets underway in the second half? I mean, they, after all, have enough depth, we hope, to carry the team for a few weeks if he isn't back in time. And by the way, they'll find out very quickly how deep that talent is if he does miss some time. And again, find out now
Yeah,
before it's too late.
yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. And but who knows? I mean, they said 6 weeks from the surgery. Now you're kind of that's right about when the season is going to start, roughly.
Yep.
So he may miss a week or two, might miss three, who knows? But you know what? If he does, but he's ready to go come December, like that's when you need him from then on, and especially down the stretch and then into the playoffs. So I don't think the first couple of weeks, and I think that's a good opportunity for them to explore what they have, see what they have, and see if those guys are capable of filling those voids when they need them.
Well, your experience, you ever go any through similar to something to this? I mean, delaying your procedure is a last resort, or even thinking back now, maybe you should have given up part of a season to correct a nagging issue with surgery.
I don't know. I mean, we didn't have the things they have today, the MRIs and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you separate a shoulder, you really don't go in and surgically repair that. You just let it repair, and it repairs on its own and with rest. Um, Now, if there was MRIs and everything like they have now, perhaps you have one of those and it shows a tear somewhere. And then, yes, I think you go in and get that fixed as soon as you possibly can, and not worry about the regular season, and hope that come playoff time you're ready to go, or it's right after the season you get it done, and then you're ready for training camp.
So, I
But
mean,
I never really,
you didn't?
I was
Yeah.
never in that situation. I never really was in a situation where it was cut and dry that something was torn and needed to be repaired. I was never in that situation. I mean, like I said, there probably was some times in my shoulders, especially where there was probably some tears in the labrum or somewhere. But we didn't have the means to find it back then, and
Yeah.
the only way they could tell is if they went in with a scope and looked around and saw it, and then they would repair it. So it was kind of it was tough back then to figure out what the heck you were going to do.
Well, I mean, the one thing we as fans know is certain, Squid. If a hockey player can lace up his skates and hold a stick, he'll play. Unlike other sports we won't mention, baseball, they break a fingernail and it's time on the DL. I mean, one stiff in that MLB got hurt playing a video game this year. So, I mean, of all things.
Yeah.
Come on. Over your career, though, can you recall any player in particular playing when they had no business even getting dressed, never mind playing?
Oh, well, God, countless, Mike. I mean, I can't
Yep.
pinpoint
Why need you say
certain
that?
players or certain times, but I mean,
Like Boria.
I
Boria
just,
must have taken a pounding.
oh my, yeah, he played with so many injuries. I mean, everybody did. I mean, especially when you get down to the end of the season, you're trying to get into the playoffs, or you get into the playoffs. I mean, back then, guys were playing with injuries that they never should have been playing sports whatsoever of any kind. And, probably some of them needed surgery, but they just wait until the playoffs were over and then get it done. And, I mean, yeah, there was a ton of guys that played with injuries that they never should have been on the ice.
Well, speaking of old, how about this one, Squid? We like to think we're pretty
Oh,
astute.
me
Well, old, I mean, come on, you're catching up to me. I
and
got you by a
you.
couple, but you're catching up. We like to think we're pretty astute and knowledgeable armchair GMs. But you got to explain this one to me. Florida signing Joe Thornton. Now, before you answer, I was in Florida for the whole season last year. I had the center ice package, and I watched all 63 games the Leafs played. So it's not like GM Bill
Yes.
Zito was unable to watch the games. What do we mark? What am I missing in this bizarre signing? Aren't there any players still left unsigned that you could look after or look at?
Well, yeah, I mean, I got to agree with you on that, Mike. I mean, watching all the Leaf games last year that I did, and, watching Joe play, I mean, let's face it, he's at the end. I think the end is pretty much there for him. I mean, he really couldn't keep up with a lot of the young players that are in the league today, and that's the thing. Like even sitting with Steven Stamkos yesterday at the golf course, like he's only 31 years old, and he goes, "Yeah, 31." He said it's a new 41 in the NHL now. He said it's a young league. It's all young guys, and I'm sitting there going, well, you're only 31. Like you're not that old, but
Yeah.
but then again, look at the injuries he's had, and
Yeah.
and that wear and tear on your body makes you a little bit older. Joe, what? Here's a situation where let me put it this way. I believe they brought him in just for his experience. And the fact that he went to the finals, I think 1 year and maybe a couple of years, they certainly didn't bring him into play on the first or second line, or probably even third line. I mean, I think they brought him in just for his experience and his leadership, and maybe to help some of the young kids, that are just starting out to maybe get in the lineup, and because Florida's got a pretty good hockey team. I mean, I don't think they need Joe Thornton up front, and I say that with all due respect for Joe, because I think he's a great guy. I've met him several times, and he was one hell of a hockey player. But I'm sorry. I think his time is up. I think what do they say? The there's nothing left in the tank,
Well,
I,
well. Oh,
I guess. And
speaking of left in the tank, maybe my old peepers were playing tricks on me, but I swore I saw Boris Salming and Matt Sandin walking in the Leafs Ford Performance Center yesterday with hockey bags over their shoulders. Now, Squid, you got something to share with myself and the listeners about a comeback you're not sharing with us, or you haven't been telling me?
absolutely not. I didn't have a. I didn't even know they were in town,
It's a
but
joke.
well, maybe they. No, were you kidding or were you
I'm just kidding.
serious?
Come on, you're
Oh,
supposed to be
son of a
part of this,
bitch.
Steve. Folks, you can tell this is unscripted. This is unscripted material. You can tell. I'm making fun of Joe Thornton coming back. Bory and Matt's got on a plane. They're going to try to
Oh,
leave.
okay. I thought maybe you did. I thought you actually saw them, and I was thinking
No,
maybe they were making
no, they're
maybe
coming.
they were making a commercial or something.
They're coming back too.
Not a chance.
I would have to say I'd have to agree with that one. Yes. Well, listen, let's take it to our next step here. Our review continues with teams the Leafs will compete against for a spot in the postseason tournament. Today we feature what I believe to be the most intriguing team in the division. Much to the chagrin of Leaf fans, the Ottawa Senators. Your initial thoughts on the club?
Well, I mean they're young, they're good, they're going to get better and better as the years go on. I mean they got Stutzel, um, the defenseman, the
Shabbat,
young kid,
Thomas Shabbat.
Shabbat. They got Batherson. They got some really good young players. Don't forget Kachuk, another guy, Norris. I mean, they got some really good young players. They got Connor Brown, who's established
Yeah.
and a good player, a good all around player. I mean, I got to tell you, that's a team to look out for, not just this year, but for the next couple of years because they're only going to get better. They have other prospects that are playing in the American League in Belleville as well. They're pretty good
Yep.
hockey players, so I think they're a team to really look out for.
Well, look at the job that Pierre Durin's done. Quietly put together a very solid young core
Yeah,
through the draft, limited funds, a polarizing odor to say the least. That's probably a compliment for him saying that much about him, and a very questionable fan base that may or may not support the team buying tickets. So you got to. I mean, he moved out some bodies. He moved out that Bennett off to make room for Nick Holden. He's really shored up his defense. Michael Delzato coming in. His lack of defensive
hmm,
coverage makes up for on the offensive side. So combine that with the guys you mentioned. This Jake Anderson, who was taken fifth overall in 2020, he's
yeah,
going to be ready at some point. I'll tell you what, and you got to look at DJ Smith. He deserves a lot of credit for not allowing these guys to mail the season in, which they very easily well could have done because it was almost expected that they were so far away just go through the motions. And I'll tell you, I'll say another thing. If the season had gone 82 games, they may have stolen that last playoff spot from Montreal. Much to the chagrin of Maple Leaf fans,
yeah.
again, using that word for the second time. Would that have been the lesser of two evils?
I'm not really sure about that, but I mean, there was a couple other teams like Edmonton and Calgary that might have overtaken Montreal had they played that many
Yeah.
games as well this past year. But Ottawa, like I said, they're a dangerous hockey team. They're a team that plays extremely hard from the drop of the puck till the end of the game, and you're not going to get cheated by the Ottawa Senators, their players, because they give everything they have for 60 minutes or 65, whatever the heck it goes. And DJ Smith, as you said, deserves a lot of credit for having them play that way from the beginning to right till the end of the season, despite the fact that it looked pretty bleak of them making the playoffs.
Well, I mean, any spin you want to put on this club, they could be the Florida Panthers of last season, and it wouldn't surprise me, at least if they were. They can play with, and by the
Yeah,
way, for Toronto fans, they could play with two lines and four defensemen and still give Leafs fits. So, Leafs Nation, be prepared for this team to be a royal pain again. Now, Squid
yeah,
moving on.
I believe they will be.
Oh,
I
they
believe
always
they
are.
will
They always are.
be. Yeah.
It was announced well, the last day, actually today I heard this. Will be allowed on jerseys starting next year. We all knew it was coming,
Mhm.
but your initial thoughts on that latest turn?
I'm not a big fan of it, Mike, but inevitably it was going to happen. I
Yeah.
think we all knew that. Revenues, the revenue streams in hockey are so much limited compared to Major League Baseball, NFL, especially, and the NBA. I mean, their TV deals, their other deals that they have with major sponsors are through the roof. I mean, billions are coming in just for television coverage, where the National Hockey League doesn't have that luxury. It's tickets. There's a little bit of money coming in from television rights, but it's not gigantic like the other leagues. So it's revenue from tickets and
Yep.
that sort of thing. So they got to find other ways to bring in revenue. I'm not surprised. I'm not really disappointed. I kind of like the sweaters clean and without anything. When you look at some of those ones in Europe, hopefully it never goes that far where it's on the pants and the sweaters and
Socks.
everywhere. The
Well,
helmets, you name it.
yeah, I mean, I'm a traditionalist, so to deface the iconic jerseys, the original six, particularly it's the only one we care about, it's sacrilegious. But again, as you mentioned, dependent on gate receipts, they're down a billion in revenue as far as escrow payments the players are to the league. So with so much cost uncertainty, whether fans will come back or won't come back, they have to squeeze every dollar they can from any source available. So Squid, be prepared for this one for you. I mean, maybe when you're doing your appearances this year with the Leafs, if you're allowed to do any, they'll dress you in a tracksuit loaded with sponsor logos, including a hat, shoes. You'll be carrying bracelets and everything. So be prepared. You're gonna be a walking billboard.
Yeah, well, hey, if I get paid for it, I don't care.
Well,
I'll
why
wear
not?
anything, Mike.
Why not? It's the way that's the way it's gonna be. Well, Squid, it's that time for our quote of the week. And considering his surgery, we'll dedicate this one to Austin Matthews, who certainly doesn't need it, but just to be safe and take it to better part of that than to err on the side of the other. Okay, so if you can follow that one, you can follow this one. So here's this week's quote. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
No athlete is truly tested until they've stared an injury in the face and come out the other side even stronger.
Who said that?
I don't know. I just found it somewhere. Hey, and while we're hot,
I got
and while we're hot, if any of you Blue Jays hey, by the way, if any of you Blue Jays are tuning in between innings while you're still playing Washington as we're doing this, pay attention to that note. A few of you in particular.
that is a good one, Mike.
Yeah, I
And
thought that's pretty good.
it
Eh?
is somewhat true in a way. I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of players, you look at these young guys coming into the league, play 3, 4, 5 years, and never really sustain any kind of injury that keeps them out of the lineup for a month or a month and a half or 2 months, or need surgery on anything. And as soon as those types of things start happening, well, if you come out on the other side, as you said, that'll only make you stronger. And I don't think Matthews should Austin should have any problems whatsoever once he
no.
gets that wrist repaired. We hope that that's something that's not going to be reoccurring and happen again, because we can ill afford to have him with a bad wrist, because that's his game right there, is putting the puck in the net. He needs those wrists good and strong.
You got that right. Well, and the other thing too is with the competition in the league getting younger and the players getting faster and bigger and better every year, you don't
Yeah,
want to be able to line up a lot for a long time period of time. So any little nagging injury, you're going to play. And again, maybe some of these other
yeah.
sports should pay attention to how hockey players act. But again, that's why hockey players are hockey players. So
But it's a little different. It's a little different now, though, Mike, because you got those science teams, most teams now, and they
yeah,
they monitor the players very, very closely. And if they're nicked up a little bit, or they're a little bit tired, they just tell the coaches he needs a day off, or he can't play. He's nicked up. He needs to recover. He needs to get better before we're going to put him back in the lineup.
yeah. Well, it's again, you got $1 million assets. You want to protect them as best you can. So why not put the money into these
Absolutely.
scientific methods? So. Well, time again is of essence, and it's running against us, Squid. So that's going to be our show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week, same time, same place. Don't forget our podcast, Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan, available on YouTube, iTunes, all podcast networks. Please subscribe. It's free. Drops Fridays at 6 p.m. Joining us on this week's episode, longtime referee, Kerry Fraser. He gives us a great interview. It's well worth listening. He's a pretty good guy, too, despite what Maple Leaf
Yeah.
fans may think. Everyone, enjoy the week. We'll talk to you next week.